The Volvo Penta 2003 boat engine is generally pretty reliable, but over the years wear and tear takes its toll. This strange fault really stretched my analytic skills and patience. The other morning, whilst in Warsash, I checked the Volvo Penta 2003 engine before starting and found the cooling water header tank was very full, and I could see that it had overflowed through the cap and there were traces of the coolant down the side of the engine door and also in the bilge. I siphoned some of the water out of the header tank and we returned to Gosport using the engine as little as possible. We're putting off starting the engine for as long as possible, but it's got a bit of a problem. The engine on Zephyr 4 is indirectly cooled. Freshwater coolant is circulated around the engine and also through a heat exchanger. Seawater is also fed into a separate circuit within the heat exchanger and cools the engine coolant before being fed into the exhaust outlet and back into the sea. As the engine coolant heats up and expands, the extra space required is found in the header tank. Similarly, as the coolant cools and contracts, the header tank provides the extra coolant. The engine coolant is in a closed circuit, so my thoughts were that the extra water in the header tank most probably came from a leak within the heat exchanger. I've had problems with the heat exchanger before, and you can find a video all about that on my channel. It's worth watching. The heat exchanger has been repaired in the past and the insides look a little fragile, so that was my first thought. The coolant, normally green, is now a sort of dirty brown, so that pointed to the heat exchanger too. Fortunately, after my last problem with the heat exchanger, I had found and purchased a second-hand spare, good old eBay, and it looks in good condition. So here I am, down on my knees again, changing over the heat exchanger. I sincerely hope I never have to do this again. It's a difficult job working in a restricted area like this. As the coolant was obviously contaminated, I drained it from the engine and replaced it with plain water. The idea is to repeat this a few times to flush out any salt content left in the engine before filling it with fresh Volvo Penta green coolant. Because the water was clear, I could look into the header tank with the engine running and see any incoming flows. There shouldn't be any, but after a few minutes I could see a thin stream of dirty water coming back into the header tank. Then all of a sudden there was a huge bubbling inflow, almost like it was boiling, which quickly filled the header tank to overflowing. I drained the water out again and refilled. Started the engine, but the same thing happened again. After lots of head scratching and trawling the internet, I found a rather obscure post pointing to the thermostat. Until the engine warms up, the flow of coolant is restricted by the thermostat. Any coolant that cannot be sent to the engine is bypassed and sent back to the header tank. It goes down this black rubber tube on the engine and arrives at the header tank here. Apparently the hole in the bypass nozzle on the thermostat is very small, and over time it can get bunged up. So, hardly believing what I had read, I loosened the clip and removed the black rubber pipe. Sure enough, the hole was virtually undetectable. I have to apologise for this next bit. I didn't manage to video the actual unbunging of the nipple for the black tube. I set the camera up, and while I was doing it, it fell over and my hands were covered in grease and water and everything else, so I just left it there. And it was the end of the day and I really just wanted to get it sorted so I could go to bed. Use a cocktail stick to unbung the hole had been suggested, but there was no way that would work, and in the end I had to get my little drill out and carefully drill out the obstruction. And hooray, it worked! I think what happens is the coolant pump builds up lots of pressure in the pipe to the thermostat until it overcomes the valve in the pump and there is a sudden release and it backflushes into the header tank. So if you find that your header tank overflows, check that little nozzle and clean out the hole. That might be all you need to do. Maybe I didn't need to change the heat exchanger after all, but it's done now and all working, and I'm certainly not going to change it back. I hope this has been a help to you. Please return the favour and subscribe and share and tell your friends. It would be wonderful and really help the channel. Bye bye.